That was weak. One more time. Ready, set. Much, much better. All right, Ricky Flex. We are here for a very special segment for the Drive-In podcast. And we are going to focus on not the MCU in terms of movies, but rather an incredible Disney Plus project known as Loki, the god of mischief himself. So, Flex, this was after that finale from last Wednesday, I feel it was almost too important not to talk about. Do you agree?
We have to talk about it.
Huge. Absolutely huge. So big that we might have just been introduced to the MCU's next big bad. So for those who don't want to be spoiled for this last episode, I recommend that you watch it and then watch this YouTube video or listen to the podcast, because we're about to get deep into some MCU discussions here. Some huge ramifications / consequences for the future of the MCU, things that are leading to maybe a bigger event than even the Infinity Saga was in the first half of the MCU, or what has already occurred in the MCU. So Ricky Flex, let's just get to the massive reveal here. Okay. We had Thanos as the big bad for the Infinity Saga. And then we have this last episode, this finale, we had Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, right, introduced, not at the end in a post-credit scene, but we got Kang literally within the first 10 minutes of this episode, and we got basically a variant of what the character is known as, Kang the Conqueror, the next huge villain for the MCU and against the Avengers, quote unquote, whatever that may look. So, Flicks, did you see it coming? Did you see Kang being introduced to this extent in Loki?
So they kind of built it up. There were obviously, through the checkup and other on social media, we all knew Jonathan Majors was cast as Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp 3 or Quantumania. There were also reports rumors that Kang the Conqueror would be in Loki. Right when the TVA were introduced and time, structure, and multiverse was thrown around, yes, it was inevitable he was going to appear in this series. To the extent of an entire episode, basically with him, Tom Hiddleston, and Sylvie just going at it with each other, with their exchanges for the entire episode was shocking. I did not see an entire episode dedicated to Jonathan Majors, but I loved it. Now, this isn't actually Kang the Conqueror, a variant of, like, there is a variant of Kang the Conqueror out there, which we expect that will be the big bad of the MCU. So excited to see that introduction later down the road.
Personally, I didn't see it coming because I give it like a 30% chance of happening. All right. 70% chance that person behind the door at the Citadel, right, where Sylvie, classic Loki, and then real Loki defeat Goliath to get to that point, right, in the finale. I thought it was going to be, I think the popular belief, 70% chance it was going to be another version of Loki, maybe even someone beyond King Loki, right? Mm-hmm. So they gave hints left and right. Goliath has a close relationship with Kang the Conqueror in the comics. The Citadel, it looked exactly like where Kang stays, like his lair, quote unquote, his supervillain lair. So I thought there was a chance it was going to be him, but what Marvel is so known for are these massive reveals, but also for misdirection. So we had the multiverse being basically teased in Spider-Man Far From Home, with Jake Gyllenhaal basically saying he was from another dimension or a different timeline, to which obviously was a lie. We had WandaVision with Evan Peters from the other X-Men, from Fox's X-Men universe, coming into this world with Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, his Vision. And that was also misdirection. So I thought there are so many clues for it being Kang the Conqueror. There's no way they're going to introduce a villain of this magnitude in a Disney Plus series. In a Disney Plus series. And I think that's an even bigger, that's like a huge result, right, from this finale. It shows the power of these Disney Plus series, because I think the WandaVision, they teased in the multiverse. Yes, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, it almost gave you what was expected to happen, where obviously Falcon becomes Captain America. The unpredictability of Loki is what makes the show so good and had you on your toes episode to episode. And the fact that they introduced a big bad in the Disney Plus series, this has me so excited for the MCU's future, with all these different shows plans and the interconnectivity with the universe, because this is going to impact every single project in the MCU from here on out. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I think we should also talk about Jonathan Majors and the way he played the character. So it seems like most people enjoyed it. I certainly did. very charismatic, very funny. Unexpectedly, Kang is just known as more of a character in the comics, similar to Thanos, like very serious. So this variant might not be the same one we see in Quantum Mania, right?
Right.
But I
We
liked
won't.
how he was so in the fact, like it was almost Thanos in the way he was so cocky. He knew there was no way he was going to lose in any situation. That's almost like what you felt with Thanos. So what do you think of Major's performances, his debut as Kang?
It was a good debut. I liked how you used the word debut there. This was a good debut into the MCU, being a likable quote unquote villain. I definitely liked it, but yeah, we're not going to see that again. Like unless we see a different variation besides King the Conqueror in the future of that character. Like King the Conqueror, like you said, is like Thanos, so he's going to be menacing, intimidating. Like you're just not going to see that style, I guess, that variant style. And so, hey, we got it. It matched well with the Loki series. What we've been seeing, like with an Owen Wilson character, we saw those charismatic characters throughout the series, and it was nice that he matched the tone of the series. Basically, is what I'm saying. So that was very nice. And I just want to go back real quick to what you're saying about the Disney Plus shows and how the interconnectivity between that and the theaters or the movies in theaters. Now, there's another show coming out next month. What If? I know I was a fan of it as the announcement. I don't know if you were totally on board, but I now know you definitely are on board after we did the trailer review or roundup
Oh yeah.
a couple weeks ago. But Miss Marvel comes out later this year. Now, I have no intention, or I had no intention of ever watching a second of that show. But now I feel like I kind of have to watch it because I don't know if they're going to introduce anything else related to anything else in the MCU. Now, I have no interest in Miss Marvel at all, but I feel like I have to watch it. And that's what they're doing here. And WandaVision kind of was underwhelming, at least to me. I think my expectations were just so way too high for that. But, and Falcon Winter Soldier, it was good. Introduced the next Captain America, great. But this really showed you the power of Disney Plus TV shows and the interconnectivity within the shows and movies in the MCU and possibly other franchises going forward.
So it's almost like a FOMO effect, right? If you're an MCU fan, you have a fear of missing out on
Yes.
anything of that will impact the next project. And that's where I think we're going to talk about Black Widow later in this episode, where that kind of failed, where you didn't build the excitement off of an MCU project. This is the what MCU fans want with everything now, right? So they want you to say, okay, what's up next? What's up next? How do we expand this universe even more? How is everyone else impacted by these events? And that is awesome, right? That is awesome. It's exactly what we need in this universe. And
Mhm.
speaking of upcoming projects, King the Conqueror, Jonathan Majors already confirmed, as you mentioned before, as the lead villain in Quantum Mania, right? Ant-Man 3. What I think is going to happen, what we're kind of leading up to, is an event that's going to be similar to Captain America Civil War, where we have a lot of different, right, almost like a mini Avengers movie, where you're going to have multiple MCU heroes coming together to take on Kang, right? And I love that it's going to be the Ant-Man universe that this is going to happen, not universe, but like franchise,
Mhm.
because it's had two films on a much smaller scale compared to the rest of the MCU. Right, it's Paul Rudd messing around with Little World with Michael Douglas, right? So I think this is a great opportunity to kind of like, okay, we're looking towards the future of the MCU. Paul Rudd might be a major part of it. And I love that idea. I love that idea. What do you think about that idea? My kind of theory for Quantum Mania.
Yeah, no, I it's definitely could happen. Like you never know what like we just saw the big bad in a TV show. So anything can happen. And I agree like right when the King the Conqueror announcement as in that would be the villain in Ant-Man 3, that was shocking because he's such a major villain and with
Huge.
a relatively I know Ant-Man 1 and 2 both made over $500 million at the US box office, but still is a relatively very small character, pun not intended, compared to the rest of the Avengers. So it's just amazing how he's even getting such a major villain in that movie. So I can totally see what you're saying there, where you could have another mini Civil War.
100%. And in terms of excitement for the universe too, this is one of the best cliffhangers in the history of the MCU. Nothing will beat Infinity War. Nothing will ever beat
Yeah,
Infinity
never.
War. The total gasp and the awes after
They
that movie
actually
ended
did that.
and the credits started rolling. There's no post credit scene. It's like this is you could just tell. when there's no post credit scene, it's a big deal. So in this series, right, has the massive cliffhanger, as we said in the Disney Plus series. But what I think is going to happen too, in terms of not within the universe, like the characters themselves, but it's going to provide a part of like the MCU now, the future of the MCU. There's gonna be a lot more creativity. They can do these different things. I think a lot of the criticisms for like phase 1 of the MCU, the directors were pretty much under the control of Kevin Feige, right? He would like the directors were just like his puppet. Like Kevin Feige is telling them this is what you have to do with the idea of the multiverse, right? And these different alternate timelines eventually coming together. People like Michael Waldron, who did Loki, he's working on Doctor Strange too. Those kind of people will have such a large effect on the future. And a big part of the MCU lasting this long, they can't remain stagnant. The Infinity Saga, a lot of movies that were very similar, villains that are very similar, heavily criticized. I think MCU fans, they should be beyond excited with this idea. Like we're going to see, I know Peyton Reed, he's like Ant-Man 1, Ant-Man 2. He's not getting a lot of credit. I can't wait to see what comes of this now, right? Let's get those creative juices flowing. And that's why I think Michael Waldron, Rick and Morty writer, thrived in such a scenario. What do you think about that?
Yeah. And definitely with what's his name? John Watts with Spider-Man, what's going to happen later this year? Like, are we going to see Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Willem Dafoe, like Jamie Foxx? Like, we're going to see Doc Ock, Alfred Molina, like the creativity behind that one. That's really going to kickstart the multiverse, because obviously we got Shang-Chi coming up. That's not going to really, like, I'm saying not, but maybe it will touch the multiverse, but I don't know. But we also have
questioning
Eternals.
how? You're questioning how?
Right. And then we get the introduction of the Eternals. But Spider-Man is really the kickoff of the multiverse. So that creativity that you're talking about, that's where we're really going to see it. And then you get Doctor Strange next March or next year, early 2022. So those two projects are going to be monstrous for your theory and creativity aspect to really kickstart. I know Black Widow kickstarted phase 4, but to really kickstart phase 4 and the multiverse.
I couldn't agree more. Like I just think I think there's huge things coming, and people don't believe it's gonna be better than the first, but at least the first like entrance, the first saga in the MCU. But we can at least say it's gonna be different. And that's so clear based off what we saw in WandaVision, and not as much Captain America and Winter Soldier, but clearly with Loki. And I think about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We think of the cliffhanger here, and what if we see Loki in Doctor Strange too? Like Loki might appear in projects not only just by himself solo, like the Loki series, but he might be dipping into other franchises within the MCU that Thor's not even a part of. And I think that just goes to show what Tom Hiddleston has done with this character, the amazing character that like they've kind of developed. You really didn't, when you first saw Loki, you didn't think he'd be around over a decade later. It's kind of wild to think about it. And you think he has such a bright future still in the MCU. And Tom Hiddleston even said himself, he'd be willing to play Loki for life. So we might be, I mean, we can even ask the question, who lasts longer in the MCU, Tom Hiddleston or Chris Hemsworth? We're at that point.
Yeah, we are at that point. And I'll just say this as well. We don't even know if he died in Avengers Infinity War anymore. We thought it was a done deal, but Richard E. Grant said, "Oh, I faked like my death to Thanos and I went to live by himself. And that's why I got banished." Like, this is spoilers. Obviously you saw episode 5, I believe is when he said this. So he went to like that own planet, and that's why Kang brought him in. The TVA brought him in. So maybe the other Loki does that. We don't know anymore. Like, you're never really dead if you're in the MCU. You're just never, if you're dead, you're not actually dead. They could bring you back any point, and the multiverse can allow that to happen as well. So you could play a character forever. You could die but come back. Anything's possible. And now I'm even questioning Infinity War and what happened there.
I know it's that I kind of don't like that aspect, but it's also like they're going on with the creativity. They're gonna have also flexibility with the different actors appearing in these movies. Kevin Feige has said he doesn't do long-term deals with these actors anymore. No more Chris Evans 8-year deals, right? Or 6 film deals. He doesn't do that anymore. They go film by film. So you could just put someone on the phone, right? And say, hey, I need you to appear in this movie. Are you willing to do it? Bang. That's like the creativity I'm thinking of.
Yes,
you know?
It helps with the creativity. Like you said, it allows directors to use the actors or characters they want and not be forced contractually and in terms of money to use like certain aspects of a character or a film, even, or to use other films as well. So the creativity aspect, I know we're kind of harping on that, and I know we're wrapping up, but it's going to be something we've never seen before in cinema. I know Martin Scorsese wouldn't like to call it cinema, but it's really art. It's literally art how they're doing this. It's kind of crazy, but Yeah, that's all I'll say for that.
And I mean, I also got to bring up the fact that the post-credit scene for the finale, we're getting season 2,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of these Disney Plus series, you don't anticipate. Maybe it leads into a movie, and that's it. The fact that we're getting a season 2, we got the cliffhanger where Loki basically is on a different timeline than he was previously, where Kang is already leading that timeline, right? He's like, it was almost like a Planet of the Apes style ending that I loved.
Yes.
It was
I thought the
clearly a
same thing.
it was clearly a call to Planet of the Apes, and I thought
Yes.
that is I think Michael Waldron just like honoring previous movies, you know.
Right. And King the Conqueror was wearing his like suit. He has actual suit. I wonder. So like if you look at a picture of King the Conqueror, he's like purple and he has like a helmet on and a big suit. I wonder if like because in the statue or the whatever the sculpture, the huge sculpture at the end, he wasn't wearing the helmet, and obviously Jonathan Majors isn't purple. So I wonder what they're gonna do there going forward in Quantum Mania and in the MCU. But yes, the Planet of the Apes thing, that was nuts. And on that, it was like, oh, are we gonna get a season 2? And bang, post credit scene, season 2 confirmed. So
There we go.
I know Kate Herron, right? She's not directing season 2, and she directed season 1, so that's going to be tricky what they do. Not getting the sole creator or the director behind it again, not the same one, so for consistency's sake. But Kevin Feige is going to find someone to.
I believe I saw a rumor that Waldron is like he's rumored to be back for season 2, and that to me that's
all you
incredibly
need.
important. And then I wanted to touch upon Sylvie quickly as we wrap up. Sylvie, the Lady Loki, I thought it was perfect that she like Loki falls in love with a variant of himself. He's such a narcissist and he loves himself so much. I thought that was gold. And the fact that we have Sylvie, she's the next Star-Lord, right? Being blamed for a major mishap in the MCU.
Right.
In Infinity War, right? We have the next scapegoat.
Right. Yeah, we have the next scapegoat. Yes. But I actually did remember I wanted to say one more thing. I love what they did in the opening credits with the dialogue when they're going through the characters and up to go to the Marvel screen. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Right. I believe so.
That was awesome. I thought that was sick.
And then Miss Minutes also.
Yeah, Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes deserved an Emmy more than Don Cheadle for his work in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Falcon the Winter Soldier. I thought that was clear. That's a joke. But that's going to do it for our recap of the finale of Loki. If you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it. And
gotta watch
this entire spoiler review if you haven't seen it. So let's get back to the pod.